Testing. Okay, we're live. What's going on, everyone? It's been a while since I actually went live here on the YouTube channel, and it's an honor to be back after being away from live streaming for pretty much almost a month, it feels like here. So happy July 8th to all of those that are watching in for this evening's live stream session. I keep on saying I'm going to do these at least once a week, and this is probably one of the first ones I will be doing. So I try to aim probably every Wednesday to do these for you all on different topics. And this topic that we're really focusing on is El Nino. And a lot of you are like, okay, David, we get it. We have El Nino coming. But I want to actually discuss a little bit what El Nino is and why it really does influence not just United States' weather, but all across the globe. And there are some really important X posts that I found on the internet today to describe why El Nino is what it is and why it really disrupts the overall weather pattern. So happy July 8th on this lovely Wednesday evening. Thanks for tuning in with me, everyone. My name is David Schlotthauer. I am not a certified meteorologist by any means. I am a weather enthusiast, but I'm like level 5 out there out of 5. I'm like really advanced when it comes to this stuff. So you guys could even call me a meteorologist. Really, I don't care at this point, because it's like he could technically be a meteorologist, only I'm missing one puzzle piece to that, and that is the certification, the AMS, American Meteorological Society certification. So thanks for tuning in. So what we have going on here, and there's a lot, all these tabs up here. Do you see all these tabs on my Chrome browser? Yeah, we have a lot to get through to discuss with what we are going to be talking about when it comes to El Nino and how that influences the Atlantic hurricane season. Because there's also been some stuff that has come out from Dr. Philip Klocksbog on that as well, and Ryan Mao, as well as Michael Lowry, people that track this stuff over years and years of experience, are calling for a very quiet Atlantic. And there's no doubt about that. That's because we have this El Nino. So what I really like using when it comes to sea surface temperature anomalies is the climate reanalyzer. Actually, I will put that in the link in the description. I want to be transparent with you all with this live stream where I get my sources from. So that's one of the links to that where you could find these sea surface temperature anomaly products. And so what we have here is our daily sea surface temperature, and this is from NOAA, Oceanic something, version 2.1, and we're looking at the 3.4 region. And what is really cool about this is we can look at past years. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to hide all of this, and I'm going to just plot things up here a little bit from our baseline, which is here. And so we're going to compare different El Ninos for you all. Some historic El Nino events, and one of those is 2015. Everyone knows about the 1997 El Nino, 1982-83 El Nino, and so we've got them plotted all on here. And I'll tell you, yes, on the anomaly standpoint, it's not that significant yet, because climatology, we're still headed down on the climatology here. This dashed line down here is climatology. All right, so in relative sense, it's not that significant yet, but for the time of the year, that's what makes it significant. And so let's actually zoom in on this for you all, because I want to show you something. So this maroon line is basically where we're at when it comes to sea surface temperature anomalies, or our actual sea surface temperature plus the anomalies that we're looking at. And so you can see here, what's interesting about this is we were actually warmer. Our sea surface temperatures were actually warmer back on June 19th. But they're cooler now on July 7th, but why are they breaking records even more? Well, it's because the diversion between where we're at here, and let me get my epic pin so I can show you all this. And this is going to be a very lengthy, informative discussion about what El Nino actually is. So this is where we're at. So if you kind of draw a line, so let's draw a little thin line from here to here. So this is pretty much even. And while sea surface temperatures are technically not breaking all-time records yet, that was done back in 2015, relating to climatology, they are breaking records. So we are departure from normal. That's this dashed line. The dashed line is going down, folks. It's going down, 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 down throughout the rest of July into early August. Okay, we even cool it down by about a degree just between late June into very early August. But what we're seeing here with actual sea surface temperatures are different. Things are not cooling down out there in the Nino 3.4 region. Yes, we cooled down a little bit, but we're right back up again when it comes to those actual sea surface temperatures. So if we mouse over this, June 19th, we were at 29.41, but look at our anomaly compared to climatology, only 1.74 Celsius. But now it's like, oh, we are cooler, but why would the anomalies be higher? That's because of climatology. It's just that we are now not warmer, but we are further away. The separation between what's normal and what's not is further away. So now we end up seeing 1.98 Celsius above average. Even so, we are still some 0.03 Celsius cooler than we were technically on June the 19th. So it kind of correlates right here. And we were really going to need to watch this, whether or not does this actually continue going up. Because if it does, then even so that, okay, water temperatures have only warmed up maybe another half a degree. But look at from here, it'd be even more significantly above normal for this time of the year, right? So you can kind of relate from where we're at now in relation to this dashed line, which again is going down. It's going downward. So that means on average, our sea surface temperatures should be cooling off in the Nino 3.4 region. It's just that they're not cooling off right now, and at times they're actually warming up. So now let's compare this from previous El Nino years. That's going to be the big concern with this event is this is outsmarting any El Nino out there. There's no El Nino that I can actually remember. And I've been alive since 1995, okay? But going all the way back in history, I cannot find any particular year where we have had sea surface temperatures this warm in the Central Pacific. This is unprecedented. This is really significant. And it's significant in the fact that it's not only above average, but this is outsmarting our previous 4 El Ninos. Actually, yeah, our previous 4. So we can see in 1982, that gave us a big El Nino. So let's actually kind of look ahead here in time. So this El Nino here, if I highlight it, look at the gray, the solid gray line. We ended up way up over here. So we ended up still at a significant El Nino that year in 1982 into 83. But yet, look where we were here. It just goes to show you it's not too late. It's never too late for El Ninos to develop. We're just well ahead of the ball game here. And then we can look at other events here. This is 1997. We all remember that El Nino. That peaked here at around 2.38 Celsius, and that maxed out at 29.09 Celsius. The only year that beats any record is the El Nino of 2015 into 16. That was a big El Nino, but not every El Nino is the same. Some are hybrids, which are Modokis, and some are east-based. This is a very east-weighted El Nino that we're dealing with here. So this really is going to mean business once we get into like November. And so this El Nino peaked around my birthday, believe it or not. My birthday is November 15th, folks, so you can wish me a happy early birthday here. And it peaked around my birthday in 2015, and that came in at 3 degrees Celsius. Okay, so let's just put it in this perspective. The forecasts are threatening 3.5 to 4 Celsius. That means we need to get these sea surface temperatures up to 30 Celsius, which I think we're going to do it. I honestly think, especially if we kind of stay in here, we may cool down a little bit. Don't fret about it. But if we really start climbing up, we can get to 31 Celsius. That is a very slim possibility. 31 Celsius in the Nino 3.4 region would be outrageously historic. Again, out of this entire chart, I cannot find anything that beats any records. This is the warmest El Nino in 2015. So we are on the doorstep of potentially breaking all-time records in the Central Pacific Basin for the strongest possible El Nino ever recorded on the face of this planet, okay? But just remember that it's, yes, actual sea surface temperatures are important, but it's really the departure from average or normal. What's normal and what's not. And you can see right here, this can kind of give you a key phrase. All in here is normal. Way up in here, all in here is all above normal. And this is below normal down here. In fact, we can even look back here at 1988. Yeah, 1988, that was a very strong La Nina. That's the opposite of an El Nino. That's a cold oceanic conditions. It's 24 Celsius. 24 Celsius compared to 29 Celsius. Doesn't seem like a whole difference in sea surface temperatures, but little goes a long way. So now that we talked about that, there's another thing that I like to use, and I'm doing a lot of research on this, not just from this, not cheating, folks, but I'm starting to interpret my own research on all of this. And this is what we call the relative multivariate oceanic atmospheric coupling index. All right, so it's whether or not is El Nino really meaning anything right now in the atmosphere? And we'll get into what these numbers here mean in a second. Actually, we could just jump straight into it. So what multivariate index actually is, it takes air pressure, it takes sea surface temperature anomalies, departure from climatology, and it looks at atmospheric circulations. It takes all of the puzzle pieces, okay, and it tries to figure out, okay, is our atmospheric base state correlating well with this right here? Okay, so imagining having an El Nino and the atmosphere doesn't respond to it. Okay, there are times where we can what we call a El Wimpo or an El Dinko. An El Dinko is like El Nino that is really doing something to the atmosphere. So for one thing, the atmosphere doesn't look like it doesn't look like it's an El Wimpo. Okay, it looks like we're going to have a really big El Dinko. I know it's a weird, it's a name that I kind of made up here on the fly, but it gives you an idea that El Nino's really flexing its muscles and it's really charging up the atmosphere. And so the neat thing about this is we can look at past years. So let me zoom in on this so you all can see this. So we all remember the El Nino of 2023, 2024, right? That was a fairly strong El Nino. That really was, okay? And so if we go back here and look at, well, let's look at 2023 for a second. Let's go to here. So this El Nino compared to climatology, right? Oops. Oh my gosh, my dates are being selected for me. So let's go to here. Oh, not that. Oh my gosh. Work with me, climate reanalyzer. So we all remember this El Nino was pretty robust. Look at this. This was a 2.2 Celsius El Nino right here back in November. But when we look at our MEI index, you would say otherwise, like, well, wait, why isn't it matching with sea surface temperatures? Because it's not based on sea surface temperatures alone. This is atmospheric oceanic coupling index, in other words. So you're looking at the atmosphere and you're looking at the oceanic conditions. And are the ocean conditions actually correlating well with the atmosphere? Are we seeing that coupling taking place? These blue numbers are negative values. That means La Nina affected the atmosphere strongly. And so anything generally greater than, say, a 1 is a moderate to strong coupling. Anything over a 3 is outrageous. All right. We have very, very strong coupling in the atmosphere. And so we can see in 2015, we had only a 2.2, but yet that was the strongest El Nino on record, folks. Right? We all remember that. Godzilla this, Godzilla that, right? We had the strongest El Nino ever on record. I remember it because I live in California and we were hoping for a great winter for rainfall and storms. We didn't really get good on that because, number one, the MEI wasn't very sufficient, and two, we had other teleconnections that were destructively interfering with our El Nino base state. And so just because we have a Godzilla Wimpo, whatever, Godzilla Dinko El Nino, or whatever you want to call it, does not mean this is going to correlate well with our atmosphere. We really got to kind of just be patient and wait. But I will tell you right now, things are correlating pretty well overall as far as it looks. We're lagging a little bit behind 2015 only since 2015 sea surface temperatures at this time in 2015 were actually cooler. The atmosphere did respond a little bit stronger to that. Now, that does not mean that, 2015 takes the cake for the best oceanic or atmospheric conditions that correlated well with El Nino. These numbers do bounce around. Okay, so we can go from a 0.3 to a 1, then back, and we jumped up pretty quickly here, but then we kind of plateaued. What we're going to likely see that is best matches with the El Nino of 1982 and 83. That's a analog that I cannot find any analog that matches well with that, or with other years other than 1982, because 1982 and 83. We look down on the scale here, 1.5 here in 2026. So remember that. So May and June, 1.5. Let's go all the way up to 1982 and 83. Okay, 1982. So 1982 was the ascending node of the El Nino. We're actually ahead of 1982 and 83. Even so, don't quote me on this. Those sea surface temperatures in 1982 and 83 were actually a little lower, correlating with the atmosphere. That means this index is very validatable when it comes to assessing atmospheric coupling compared relative to the oceanic state that we're seeing. So this really ticked up quite high, and it went all the way up to 2.9 even in April and May, which means even after El Nino actually peaks, the atmosphere can lag behind. Isn't that cool? So your warmest sea surface temperatures happen right around November and December, sometimes in January, but your atmospheric response can lag behind for as much as 4 to 5 months or even 6 months for Pete's sake here. So clearly, this is important. Yeah, our sea surface temperatures in 1982 peaked around in here somewhere, but our atmospheric base state really was lagged behind there. Then we went into a weak La Nina there afterwards based on atmospheric conditions. So every super El Nino behaves differently than anything else. So like we are looking, a lot of analogs, I've noticed this on social media, are looking back, this compares well with 2015, with that El Nino. In some ways it does, but in other ways it doesn't. For one thing, this is a very east-based, as east-based you can possibly get when it comes to an El Nino. There's even been some grame and shame on X that, this is going to be a Madoki. I have not found anything that correlates well with the Madoki El Nino this year. There's just no way that's going to happen. We have very high upper ocean heat content beneath the surface and the subsurface. As far east we can look at is Peru, which gives us an idea on what structure of El Nino will we actually see. And this year we're gonna have an east-based weighted event instead of a Modoki, which would be a central-based El Nino. So that's what this is what I really like to use. Again, everything that I'm talking about will be in the chat. Okay, so you can all check this out. Again, this is the multivariate, or in my sense, I'm using relative. I don't think they use the relative numbers here yet, but this is the relative the relative multivariate oceanic atmospheric index coupling pattern. Okay. That's what these numbers mean. This is not ocean temperatures. These are actual indexes that they use across the board. Okay. And so what is our current state of El Nino? And everybody's been waiting for this. I'll tell you what. I've been alive since 1995 and I'm 30 years old. I have not seen an El Nino this strong, this early, ever in my entire lifetime. And I'm not saying this to hype this up, to fearmonger, to cause panic. You really shouldn't panic over just this. This is not a weather system by any means. It's a climatological phenomenon that disrupts our overall atmospheric circulations across the world. And so this is a big deal. This is a significant El Nino. I mean, it's only July 7th, folks. We just got done with 4th of July, and it's even hard to believe we're already in early July, and we're seeing sea surface temperatures that are this warm, this early. Let's just put this in a reference. Sea surface temperatures do not reach this threshold until at least mid-September. Usually like mid-September, right after Labor Day. We see sea surface temperature anomalies of this magnitude. It's only July. Okay, so this is really eye-opening to a lot of meteorologists out there. I can see why that is. Mark Finan, if you're watching this, Mark Finan, Eric Webb, Bill Knoll, or Ben Knoll, that is, I said Bill Knoll, Ben Knoll, Mark Sedeth, Michael Lowry. I know a lot of meteorologists, even Reed Timmer out there. I'm sure he's watching my live stream and looking at this. I'm like, man, it's only July and we're seeing this when it should be waiting until like September or even into October. And by the way, some of these sea surface temperature anomalies here off of Peru, this is a traditional index, by the way. Yeah, this is almost 6, I think that is 6 degrees Celsius. Some of these anomalies here peaking at 6 Celsius above average. That is very, very, very alarming. That really is when you know what you're looking at. Okay, but when we kind of take away the noise, so this is the traditional index, and when we look at the relative index right now, we're right around 4 to maybe 4.5 Celsius right off the coast of Peru. So that Niño Costero event, I can't even speak Spanish. I'm trying to roll my tongue here on that one. But yeah, sea surface temperature anomalies here in the relative index, which is what I like to use. Definitely running well above average there. Not so much here, right around about 1.5 degrees or so above normal in the Niño 3.4 region. Relatively cool compared to our El Nino that we're looking at across Hawaii and across the southern hemisphere. That's why I like looking at this, because when you look at this, you're like, man, everywhere it's just warmer than average, but you take away the noise a little bit and we reach our new baseline. This is our relative index. The global mean is what we like to use here. So now, what does that correlate here with the Atlantic? And a lot of you have had problems with me looking at global mean sea surface temperature anomalies here in my past videos. I am going to be using this in future videos because it's it's more conservative with my videos, because I don't want to just blare out these like show you all reds and oranges, right? That's not what this is about. Not only it's more conservative, but it's based on climatology. As you all know, and I'm being real here with you all, not trying to sugarcoat anything, our global sea surface temperatures have warmed up over the past decade. So to account for that warming, we have to up our baseline. We have to up it and make things that were once above average to now below average. So really, in relative sense, if we looked at our traditional index, these numbers up here would be near average. But because we have to kind of wash out the noise a little bit, we are having to adjust things. So that's why things here look more extreme. We got extreme cool anomalies up here in the northern Atlantic, some subtropical warmth here, a lot are overspreading the main development region, which is running relatively cooler than average. Okay. Yes, you all will otherwise say that, David, the MDR is actually warming up a little bit. It's near average to slightly above average. I'm not looking at that index anymore. I'm sorry. I'm going to be looking at the relative index, and it correlates well with our El Nino in the Eastern Pacific. And that is why I'm pretty darn confident. And I was not the only one. And that's kind of what I wanted to share here too, is that if actually, you know what? We're going to go here really quickly and go to seasonal hurricane predictions. Yes, I know these people very well over there. Lucy, that runs the website here. The seasonal predictions. There it is. And so if we actually go all the way back out to March and April, this is when I released my forecast. My forecast is publicly here, folks. So if you all want to check it out here during or after the live stream, you are more than happy to do so. So that's what that is. So this is my forecast, and you know, my forecast is lower than anybody else's. I mean, look at here, 268 WX is like at the time was predicting up to 23 named storms. I'm like, no, bruh. No, bruh. There's not going to be no 23 named storms. There's just no way about it. There's be up to 22 named storms. And here I am here predicting 4 to 8 named storms. And yeah, that might seem low. That might be like, boy, dude, you're way too conservative, brother. You're undermining the Atlantic hurricane season. Actually, no, I'm not. I mean, you guys, if I wanted to go 5 hours on this live stream, I could really show you all behind the scenes with every wrench and Allen wrench, screwdriver you could see when it comes to forecasting this hurricane season. And I look at a lot of sea surface temperature configurations, atmospheric configurations, the state of the QBO, which is at 10 millibars. You know, that's way up there in the stratosphere. It's called the stratospheric polar vortex. Well, it's hard to explain, but it kind of correlates well here with what we're seeing. And there's just a lot of teleconnections that I look for that give us what type of season, right? So that's why last year my forecast ended up verifying, but the numbers were on the high end of my forecast, but they did kind of fall in that window in a way. So you all can be like, wow, David was actually pretty much right for a good part of the time here with the number of named storms. We ended up last year with below average when it comes to the number of named storms. Last year, in relative sense, was not really busy for the Atlantic, although we did have Melissa out there that destroyed the western half of Jamaica. That was very unfortunate and ended up being the strongest hurricane ever recorded in the Caribbean and even in the Atlantic. And that's just only one named storm, right? Or one by itself. So you can see here with what my forecast was calling for. Now let's go into May and June. And you'll see here, my forecast is right here. Still, again, one of the lower ends, now with the UK Met. So I was like, oh, okay, some people are agreeing with my forecast. Earth Networks dropping their forecast a little bit. But you can still see other people here predicting the average to slightly above average hurricane season. I'm like, where are you guys seeing this? Like, come on. So now when we go into July and August, my numbers are not out here yet, but they will be. I sent my forecast in to Colorado State University. They should have that out by tomorrow. And we can see, look at Colorado State. They lowered their forecast, now calling for 7 to 11 named storms. Who was right the whole time? If we go back to May and June, Colorado State was predicting about 8 to 14 named storms. So, and then back there we go, 10 to 16 named storms. So if you're seeing downtrends on the CSU, you kind of see where I'm going with this. Like, wow, David was actually like correct this whole time. Yeah, you can thank El Nino and the base state that we're seeing. All right. I'm telling you, folks, you guys, a lot of people think, oh, David is underdoing this hurricane season. He's underhyping. You know, there's reasons. I always think of it like this, okay? There's always a reason why your manager tells you what to do. So, like, if I tell one of you guys, Justin Wilson, please take out the garbage. You're not going to tell me why, David. Why do I need to take out the garbage? Just do it, right? So there's always a reason why my numbers are low when it comes to a hurricane season. And it's because the El Nino, this child correlated to this over here. Okay, correlation, right? Relativity means a lot here, okay? So the Atlantic running relatively cooler than average in the main development region. Things might change around a little bit, but we're in July, folks, and it really won't matter. Wind shear is taking over. El Nino's ruling the world right now. It's just not, the atmosphere doesn't change in a month. It really doesn't at this time. So now, why am I confident that this El Nino is going to be very, very strong? Okay, like, why are the forecasts so bullish on a El Nino in the first place? Like, why are we getting numbers that we are predicting? It's because of the subsurface warmth. So imagining looking at your fish tank. So if you guys have a fish tank in your room or in the living room or by the kitchen or even outside, look at your fish tank and imagine you're looking through the ocean. You're looking at it at an angle, okay? So you're looking at fish tank at an angle. And this is what you're seeing. You're seeing literally warmer than average waters beneath the surface. Okay, so not just at the skin. So the skin is up in here, right? That's the skin. And this is in depth. So the higher the numbers, the deeper down you go in ocean water. This would be very deep. 500 meters is like something like 800 or 900, maybe 1,000 feet deep. So that would be very, very, very deep. Okay. And sunlight doesn't penetrate that far down. It's pitch black, 1,000 feet below the surface. But as you get further up, sunlight does penetrate and it does warm these oceans. And with westerly wind bursts, westerly wind anomalies that I'm going to be showing you, which help kickstarts this El Nino. And I'll tell you my theory on why this El Nino started in the first place too. Again, I've been doing a lot of research on, okay, what triggered this El Nino, okay? First off, there's a lot of subsurface warmth. I mean, these anomalies, folks, and I'm not kidding, okay? It doesn't matter it goes up to 6 Celsius. Some of these anomalies in here are even 8 or even 9 degrees Celsius. 9 degrees Celsius above average, and you might be like, whoa, 9 degrees Celsius. Is that going to work its way up into the surface? It's not going to work its way up into the surface, I don't think, because of course it gets all diluted. But what this means is imagining having trade winds that are strong enough to at least do some upwelling. What you're going to do is you're just going to upwell warm water. You're not upwelling that cooler water. These blue anomalies right here that are in the far Western Pacific deep down are not over here. We're not seeing blues, folks. This is not blue over here. These are not blue anomalies. These are oranges and reds and pinks. Pinks. Happy Valentine's Day for those that are watching. No, it's not Valentine's Day, but I'll tell you what, this is very concerning. This gives us an idea that this El Nino has a lot behind it. There's a lot of oomph. There's a lot of octane fuel. There's a lot of gasoline, okay, behind this piston to push it forward, right? And that piston is westerly wind bursts. And those westerly wind bursts help to trigger downwelling Kelvin waves. And I'll show you what that means here in a little bit. All right. So basically, let me actually open up a new tab here. Sorry, this was kind of planned. I was thinking I missed a few things. So let's actually open this up and let's go to here. Let's go to here and let's go to the Central Pacific. There we go. Oh, no, wait. Let's do wide view because it gives us a whole wide view of what we're seeing. Okay, so by the way, thank you for the membership, Vanessa. I do appreciate that. I'm going to be doing a lot on El Nino and the tropics. If there's ever anything in the tropics, it would probably be in the Eastern Pacific or the Western Pacific, honestly. The Atlantic, I'm telling you folks, I'm not saying it's shut down for business, but last year was hard to get any hurricane. Well, it wasn't too hard, but we did get hurricanes. This year's going to be much harder. It really is. So just hold me to it. It's July and we're supposed to be seeing quiet activity. That's normal for July, but this could happen or will likely happen, I bet you, in September and October. It's like, where's our hurricane season at? It's like, well, look at why there's no hurricane season, because we got El Nino. The Christ child is throwing a temper tantrum right now. So, and it's not just throwing a temper tantrum, it has a fever. And so this really is striking. So let's go back to July 8th. So this is literally, actually, let's do 7th. This is where the warm pool was. Okay, and I'm going to turn this off so you all can see the difference. This is really where our warm pool is on average, okay? This is where our warm pool is. If you guys want to take video of this, at me explaining this, you guys can go right ahead and put it on X. Someone did a good job at actually posting my video on there on X, so I do appreciate that. So this was last year, and you're like, okay, that's typical for a La Nina, right? That is. The warm pool always is in the Western Pacific, where you have your warmest waters. But when we get an El Nino, where is that warm pool now? Where is the warm pool now? Yeah, literally, the warm pool is over here. It's literally over here. This is the centroid of that warm pool. So it really has moved. It really has moved from where it was near Indonesia, near Malaysia, over parts of Australia, and now it's south of Hawaii. Like, I could tell you right now, without looking at the anomalies, this is an El Nino right now. It really is. I mean, you don't need anomalies to tell you the deal, like, oh, we are in an El Nino. No, we are in an El Nino just based on these actual sea surface temperatures. The warm pool does not even belong this far east. It was not this far east in 1997. I'll be honest with you all. All right, based on my research, it was not this far east at all. This is incredibly far east. And far east as in longitudinally, okay? So these are your longitude lines right here, you know? So if you find out, okay, I'm 120 degrees west, that's longitude, that's not latitude. So you can think about it like this. In longitudinally, this is very far east. This is east of the date line. The international date line lies somewhere over here, I believe. I think it's, if I get this right, it's kind of somewhere over in here is your international date line. It's east of that. That's incredible. That is really, really something, okay? From an anomaly standpoint to an actuality standpoint, we're seeing those sea surface temperatures. So that's what El Nino is. And with that warmer than normal water and the overall sea surface temperatures that are warmer, you end up getting a change in your atmosphere. Your atmosphere actually changes state because all that warm water heats the air above it. That heating wants to go up, right? Warm air rises. We should know this, folks. Warm air likes to rise. And once it rises so high, it spreads out and it changes your global circulations. Okay? Remember that warm pool was once over the West Pacific. Now that warm pool is now over the Central Pacific and even trying to get into the Eastern Pacific, which again, it does not belong there. It does not. It should not be in the Central Pacific. But during El Niños like this one, it's rare for it to get that far east. So this is what your thermocline actually looks like. And I want to see if I could bring up a movie. Let's bring up a movie here at showing you all it. So let me open that up really quickly. Let's go to here, go to your mean Pacific, and let's look at, let me see if I can go to the last 120 days, if it lets me. I don't know if it's going to let me, but I think it should. You guys got to see this. This is why this El Nino is a big deal. It really is. And wait until I show you the precipitation forecast. It is mind bonkers. It is bonkers for the upcoming winter. So come on, load. Are you going to load? There we go. So this is a movie showing us, okay, this is back in March. This is how your thermocline should look. So what I'm going to do again is I'm going to highlight with my marker, with my pen, where that yellow line actually is. Okay, and let's play this through because you guys will like seeing this. I'm like, whoa. So here it is. And look at the thermocline, right? Some cooler water has worked its way up. It's not as deep here, but it's also deeper over here. So we are seeing that opposite, that yin-yang effect. Think about a yin-yang, right? I mean, there's really no thermocline here at all. I mean, really no tilt. I mean, on average, it's incredible. It really is incredible to see just how level this is. And that is why, folks, this El Nino is a big deal. Because you can think about it again, our water temperatures down here are quite warm than they should be. And there's just so much heat being stored. It's like a rubber band. It's just like all that latent heat being stored in the oceans. And then, of course, your warmest water here is right around Hawaii, south of Hawaii. And that's running at 31. I think that's like 31, almost 32 Celsius. Oh, man, that's toasty. That is upper echelon 80s, like 88, 89 degrees, something like that. That is incredibly warm. And that is why I am sounding the alarm that this El Nino is going to be very significant once it peaks once it does that, once it reaches its most intense state, which is in November and December. It is going to be something else. It really is. I can't wait to see what it's actually going to look like in November. So now, hold on. So let's take a look now at our atmospheric circulation. What does that mean in our atmospheric sense? Yeah, there's definitely westerly wind anomalies. And we're looking at the last 90 days overall, so our average. So anything in orange in here is weaker than normal trade winds, essentially. So you're getting not literal westerly wind, like winds blowing out of the west here over the eastern Pacific, but the winds are weaker, okay? So the default would be westerly when your trades are weaker than average. And so you can see these winds here, or westerly wind anomalies, overspreading pretty much the entire equatorial Pacific. I mean, this is really widespread. This goes all the way to Peru, which is why we see the warmest water, and it's getting warmer and warmer and warmer. And then, of course, you have easterly wind anomalies up here Hence is why we have seen a lot of typhoon activity thus far in the Western Pacific. We had Cyclu, now we have Bavi that is really intense, all because of this background vorticity stretching that we're seeing relative to average in this area. You have westerlies here, easterly wind anomalies up here, and that's what you're getting. And then we're about to get more spin-ups along the intertropical convergence zone over here in the Eastern Pacific. We will look at the models here in a little bit. Easterly wind anomalies here, westerly winds down here. That's going to do us a lot when it comes to vorticity stretching from end to end. And we're going to get these systems breaking off from that intertropical convergence zone. And we're going to get hurricanes in the Central Pacific and the Eastern Pacific in the next couple of weeks because of that. So, wait. Oh, yeah. So this is in the lower parts. This is the upper parts. And you can see El Nino is definitely disrupting the pattern already. You can see easterly wind anomalies up here at 200 millibars. So this is basically where jet planes fly. So you have easterly winds here. You got westerly wind anomalies here. Okay, so this is where most of our sinking air is happening in the far eastern Pacific, which is typical with El Ninos. And then you can see here easterlies. So that we have a lot of upward motion that is happening in this corridor, right in here, right where we expect it to occur with this El Nino. And that's why we have easterly wind anomalies, lesser vertical wind shear overall as a whole in the Central Pacific. And this matches up very well with our vorticity, our average 90-day vorticity, or not vorticity, velocity, excuse me, got my words jumbled up there. A velocity potential anomaly, okay? So this is where we have more rising in the atmosphere, more thunderstorms overall. But I want to kind of separate what is true and what is not with maps like this, okay? Of course, I don't like pointing out any people out there on social media. I like to keep things to a minimum on that. We don't like to get into any arguments. A lot of people or some weather enthusiasts have their own way of interpreting maps, but I feel like the way I'm interpreting it is more accurate in this modern day and age than traditionally. And that's because, again, the oceans and stuff are really warm out here. So when you're in a centroid, okay, you got to think of a centroid of upward motion, these anomalies, okay? You're not going to get hurricane after hurricane after hurricane that develops out of this centroid of upward motion in the atmosphere. Just because we have El Nino does not mean that every time we get this bubble of rising air, meaning we're going to have hurricanes and typhoons all over the place. It doesn't work that way. All right. And the reason why is the atmosphere lags behind a little bit. You got to think of these velocity anomalies as anomalies themselves, right? And so you can kind of think about it this. You have sinking air over the Atlantic. You have rising air over the Pacific, right? You're going to get anomalous westerly winds in the upper parts of the atmosphere. You're going to get anomalous easterly winds in the lower parts of the atmosphere. That's why we had that easterly wind burst in the far eastern Pacific, and I will show you proof of that if you want me to on a Hofböhler diagram. So before the rising motion actually arrives, things are actually very unfavorable, really hostile over here across the far eastern Pacific into the Caribbean and the Atlantic. That is why there's so much vertical wind shear in the first place. But look at this. This over here, when you go from rising air to sinking air, where you get those enhanced easterly winds aloft, you get enhanced westerlies in the lower parts of the atmosphere. This is going to be the area, and I'm not joking. You can see what it has already caused. We have Bavi that has formed. This is going to be your most favorable zone for tropical development. Okay, very favorable between this rising cell to the east and sinking motion or air over Indonesia and over Australia. People think, again, I'll repeat, all this rising motion is favorable environment, all these thunderstorms going to develop, and Beluaha, we're going to get numerous hurricanes. No, doesn't work that way. It just does not work that way. All right. And it's because of how thermodynamics works in the atmosphere. Okay. The air is a fluid after all. Okay. So now that we talked a little bit about what velocity potential anomaly is and how it relates to El Nino, which by the way, when you do get an El Nino, you get a lot of rising here in the atmosphere over a 90-day period. That's anomalous. So this is definitely something that the atmosphere has already tapped into. El Nino as a whole is already influencing our atmosphere. That is a given right now. We're seeing the coupling taking place. We have the sinking motion where we thought it would be in July. We have all the rising motion where we thought it would be in the month of July here in the Central Pacific. So when you look at this and you're asking, David, is El Nino already coupling with the atmosphere? And straight up, I'm going to say, yes, it is. It is coupling with our atmosphere. Our atmosphere is already responding to our oceanic conditions in the Central and Eastern Pacific. So yes, you can truly tell me right now, David, or you can tell me right now in the chat, yeah, David, El Nino is happening for sure. And I'll be like, yeah, it is. It definitely is. I agree with you on that. So now, what are the forecasts going forward when it comes to this El Nino? I discussed about this a few days ago with my El Nino update. Be sure to check that out after this because it does show you the latest Euro forecast. Just the chart itself, the plume, the kind of the ensemble chart showing this upward trend, right? But this El Nino here is definitely growing stronger, and some of these anomalies here, folks, and I'm not lying when I show you this right in here. Some of these dark reds, if we kind of box that in right in here, that correlates to about 4.5 to 5 Celsius above average. That is phenomenal. That is significant up on the chart here in the Eastern Pacific. That is why. And I can see this. This is very, very likely because of what we're seeing beneath the surface. The subsurface warmth is absolutely horrific. It is pretty substantial, okay? And I'm not saying that lightly. I'm being really honest. I just showed you all the anomalies in the subsurface. They're crazy. So now this is for August. So this is for next month. And you're probably wondering, what about the Atlantic? Again, correlating this to over here, you're probably going to say, whoa, yeah, the East Pacific is definitely warmer and is dominating over the Atlantic. And if you guess that correctly, you get a point. Because down here in the subtropical or in the deep tropical region of the Atlantic, it's not going to fare very well. These are relatively cooler than average sea surface temperatures. Okay, I mean, look at this gray area. That's normal. That's right here. We're not over here or over here in the Atlantic. It's normal relative to our El Nino here. So you could really kind of get an idea that, oh, all right, David. So all the rising motion is going to be really well here in the Central Pacific. Yeah, it is. Okay, that's why the numbers from Colorado State University are dropping their numbers. The numbers are not as high. And so now instead of saying we're going to have a slightly below average season to maybe a near average hurricane season, it's going to now be well below average for the Atlantic. Yes, we will see at least 1 or 2 hurricanes. I'm betting on that. I think we will see at least 1 or 2 hurricanes, but will those 1 or 2 hurricanes impact any United States areas? We don't know. I mean, it's like predicting to win $1 trillion or maybe $2 or $3 billion in 50 years. In 50 years, do you see me winning $50 billion? Your answer is, I don't know, David. That's an analogy on what we think for the Atlantic hurricane season. We know in general it's going to be below average, but does that mean no strikes to the United States? We don't know that, okay? So, and you always have to be ready. 1 is enough. It only takes 1, folks. It could be a Melissa. What if Melissa rammed right into the United States last year? Then we would say, wow, that was the strongest hurricane ever to hit the United States, right? Unfortunately, though, it did impact Jamaica, Jamaica and that's land areas, right? So it only takes one. It could end with a big bang, right? So now let's take a look at the forecast for November, my birthday month. Yeah, this is really, really bad right here. Look at this. These sea surface temperature anomalies right in here. This is very, very high. That's very high. We are looking at 6 degrees Celsius. 6. And if you all want to screenshot this, I'm going to type it up right here. You can put this on X. Oh my. Oh my. And I'm going to put plus 6 Celsius right there. So you all can actually put this on X if you want. Get my name out there, right? Because I'm doing a good job on this. So you can see, oh my, 6+ Celsius. You can barely see it. You can barely see it. In fact, if you want me to zoom in, I could even show it to you a little bit more. Right there. See that little gray area on the euro? Right there. That little dinky right there. That's 6 Celsius. That is 6 Celsius. That is incredible. That is incredible. And yeah, you can even see it right here. Wait. But what? It's saying 6.9? Am I seeing that right? No, there's no 6.9 on that map. I don't know where they're getting that 6.9. Maybe along the coast here of Peru or along the coast of California. But our El Nino, 6 degrees Celsius. Man, that is pretty substantial on the euro. Again, the euro model, folks, the more conservative version of the euro. Okay, the climate model, really, really bullish. I mean, this is as bullish as it is physically possible. And so this has a lot of time, a lot of heat beneath the surface to make this El Nino the strongest possible in the world and ever on record. No, it could even be stronger than I think 1877. I saw someone saying that. It is possible. But does that mean your impacts will be significant? Not necessarily. But therefore, let's take a look at our precipitation forecast. So, of course, definitely correlating really well. Very classic El Nino structure signal here. Well above average rainfall here. So we're going to put a plus here for above average. Then over here, it's all drier than average. The negative signs. It looks like even an Indian Niña or La Niña in the Indian Ocean right here because of it drier than average. Really superimposed on this El Nino. Man, I mean, things are really lining up for this event, really. It just really staggering. The only missing wrench here is a positive or a negative PDO, a Pacific Decadial Oscillation, and somewhat of a negative PMM or Pacific Meridional mode. That might be throwing a wrench into the forecast here. But even so, El Nino is really winning out the teleconnection here with the above average precipitation. And that leads me into this map right here. This is, again, showing us the same processes, our same anomalies, all above average here across much of the Intermountain West and California, well above average across much of the southeastern United States. I even forgot to bring up, man, I need to bring up our temperatures as well. I don't know why I did not bring that up. So let me bring that up really quick. But you can kind of get the idea that it is going to be well above average rainfall, more than likely than not, over Southern California, California in itself, and especially the southeastern United States. Okay, and you're probably wondering, will we get more snow? Are we going to get snowstorms this winter? No, it doesn't increase your chances for more snow in a warming climate, and that's just because our climate overall has warmed up. So let's go to here. Let's go to temperatures, right? Yeah, this is what we want. So is it going to work? Yeah, here we go. So this is what we want to see. Okay, it's not working. Okay, we're going to use the 3-month mean. So our temperatures, this is what it looks like for the month of, there we go. So for the months of November, December, and January of this year into next year. And very classic signature look here to El Nino, where we have near average to below average temperature anomalies down here in the deep south. So yeah, this winter specifically, it's going to feel more like winter in the sense that it's going to be wet and it's going to be cool, cool, right? It's not going to necessarily be cold, because you got to think your subtropical jet is going to be more active, way more active than it has ever been. So you're going to advect warmer Pacific air overhead into the deep south here. So yes, your daytime highs will take a big hit. All right. So imagining this, your daytime high temperature anomalies will be, say, 10 to 15 degrees below average more often than not. But your overnight temperatures maybe 2 to 5 degrees above average. So your overnight low temperatures might be warmer than average, but your daytime highs could be lower, or will more likely be lower than average. So as a whole, that brings your overall temperatures for the month down a little bit. It doesn't mean you will get feet upon feet of snow. It doesn't mean you will get that, but it means your winter is not looking dry and warm like La Nina gets, right? It's the opposite of La Nina. Up here in Canada, it is definitely going to be much warmer than average, and that gives us an idea that not much Arctic outbreaks this winter. You can see up here across the Great Lakes in the Northeast, warmer than average winter is expected here. Across the Pacific Northwest and even in California, you can see here warmer than average even for California. It's going to be more of a balmy, wet, warm, mild, I would say warm, mild winter for us. Cool and wet down here for the deep south, and mild and wet for the Northeast. So kind of all in here is where we expect things to be quite wet for this coming winter, with below average rain snow anomalies over the northern plains. And again, if we go back and look at that, you can see near average to below average over here, kind of all overspreading much of this area. As we get closer, this will get fine-tuned a lot more. But definitely a wet one for Floridians that really do need the rain. Get rid of that drought ASAP. So now, back to why this is an El Nino and why we should be worried for additional strengthening is when we look at our velocity potential anomaly. One way to clear up the noise from other YouTubers here on how they interpret maps like this. I don't want to make fun of anybody. People have their own ways of interpreting things, but I'll tell you, the way I'm interpreting this is the realistic, honest way of forecasting, okay? So I showed you all this, and it's part of my tropical routine updates. Anything in blue here is upward motion. Yes, I get that. Upward motion, more thunderstorms, lower pressures, right? Well, that is true, but it doesn't mean there will be more hurricanes, more tropical storms, or typhoons, right? It doesn't work that way. Because again, you got to think the air is spreading out. It is spreading out from this centroid of upward motion, okay? So you can kind of think, let me actually visualize this a little bit better. So like this, okay? So I'm going to draw arrows on either side of this so you can kind of get an idea with what we're looking at in the upper parts. So all this rising motion is centroid. You get anomalous easterly winds aloft around the international date line, okay, in this type of setup. That's why we have a lot of typhoon activity taking place. We had a couple we have Bobby, and we had one before that, and it looks like we're going to have additional typhoon formation activity in the Western Pacific, and then eventually in the Eastern Pacific, we could have periods of tropical activity as well there. And that is because the further east this moves, the more the Pacific opens up for activity. And that's because anomalous easterlies in the upper parts of the atmosphere, and then underneath that you get anomalous westerly winds. So you get westerly wind burst activity, okay? And that vorticity stretching helps to augment formation of tropical cyclones in this transitional state. Right in here is where we tend to see the seedlings of tropical activity. And once those move, they can go wandering. Of course, the sinking air won't mean anything to this to hurricane or typhoons once they form here. Okay, and then over the Atlantic, you're probably like, oh, there's rising motion too, David. But look at, there's a big cutoff from all that rising motion to near neutral conditions. So you're getting anomalous westerly winds over the Atlantic, and underneath that, you get anomalous easterlies from the easterly direction. So you're blowing dust off of Africa. The air is really dry and it's really stable because all this sinking air is over Indonesia, over parts of Africa, and over the Indian Ocean. This is basically, and I want you all to hear me out very carefully, this is the exact 180 flip opposite to get a busy hurricane season in the Atlantic. You need all of this rising motion. Imagine all of this is over here, okay? And all this sinking air is over here in the Pacific. We are not seeing that this year. It's a flip-flop. So that means more chances than not, we're not going to have much to track in the tropics, in the Atlantic. If we get anything, I'd hold my bet to maybe mid-September, right around the peak of hurricane season, when we might squeeze out a couple of named storms, maybe a few, and that's it. That's the Atlantic hurricane season. I'm not trying to downplay the season, but I'm looking for analogs, and the analogs this year are El Nino compared to NAO, or no, not the NAO. Yeah, it is. AMO, something like that. Ugh, can't think clearly sometimes, but you get the idea, okay? That's what we're dealing with. And this is the European. So this is the GEFS ensemble blend showing us, again, very strong coupling of the atmosphere with that El Nino. Same goes true with the European ensemble prediction system. Strong coupling with, at times, we get lots of sinking air over the Atlantic, okay? Maybe some of these pulses of favorability, but I mean, all it's going to do is it's going to kind of entice a tropical wave, and it looks healthy, then it's going to go poof once it runs into the Caribbean. Just overall, this really does not look favorable for the Atlantic. It just does not get me to say, folks, in 2 weeks, we're going to have a blockbuster outbreak of hurricanes in the Atlantic. It just does not look like that. It just looks very quiet for at least most of July. At the point, I'm expecting it to remain quiet probably through the end of July. Wouldn't be surprising if we go without a named storm in July. That's how it looks right now. European ensemble, again, same thing. All this rising motion over the Central Pacific, sinking in the Indonesian Ocean as well as Africa. And that's why, again, things are just looking really quiet out there in the Atlantic. So I wanted to show you all this. Ignore the QBO part, but Atmos Lab, WX, really good guy on X. I've been following him a little bit, and I love his animation here. And we're really going to just look at the, not animation, the telestration. That's what I was looking for. So when you get all this MJO convection enhancement, again, primarily over the Central Pacific is what we're looking at here, okay? You're more likely to get westerly wind burst activity. So if you think about it, let's do this. So you get your westerly wind burst activity in the lower parts of the atmosphere, okay? So this is your westerly wind burst. Your rising motion is here, okay? And then you get your easterly wind anomalies over here, if that makes sense, right? Think of this as your MJO right here, MJO convection enhancement. And what this westerly wind burst will do is it will help to propagate all that warmer water eastward. Okay, so this thermocline becomes more like that. That's what we're seeing right now. It's not, there's really not much of a sharp slope to this thermocline. And that's because of the westerly wind burst activity. So your warm pool, downwelling Kelvin wave response helps to keep that El Nino going. It supplies the El Nino with more warm water. And what this means in the atmosphere is tropical forcing. West Africa, typically the West African monsoon is weaker than average. The Indian monsoon can be modulated to some degree. It doesn't necessarily go away, but it's a bit more suppressed than usual, especially when you get a positive IOD modulation. You get suppressed convection, usually over the maritime continent, usually over, again, the Indian Ocean, over parts of or most of Australia, as well as Malaysia, including for most of Africa, is where we see the suppressed convection. So that means these tropical waves are not as strong as they should be, and that means that they're going to have a harder time getting going once they move into the Atlantic with, well, our below average sea surface temperature state. Then we have in the Western Central Pacific, we have an active intertropical convergence zone. That's been true for a while now. And on top of that, we have a strong El Nino that is in place. So that really helps fuel a lot of activity here in the Western and Central Pacific areas of the world. That's why generally you get above average tropical activity in the Western, Central, and Eastern Pacific during a strong El Nino of what we're seeing. But then, of course, when you get that El Nino effect, you get a very weak, disrupted Walker circulation. So your upward motion is here. The air diverts. These are your anomalous westerlies. That's like what's happening over the Atlantic these days. This is what's happening over the Pacific. We get easterlies, and then your flow comes down here, and it becomes westerly. This is exactly why we get, again, think of this as the MJO pulse, that rising... Hold on. Motorcycle's loud. Okay, not so loud after all. But think about it this way. MJO pulse here, favorability here, unfavorability over here. Now you know. But this could also disrupt what goes on up here too. The El Nino base state can disrupt your East Asian mountain torque event, usually seen in the winter times, your subtropical jet modulation, Rossby wave response. You'll hear these technical terms from my mouth: wave 1 structure, wave 2 structure, constructive interference, destructive interference, and it's all terms that are used for this El Nino. So let's take a look now at, oops, I don't got it here. There we go. So when it comes to the forecast going forward, when it comes to this El Nino and other aspects to the atmospheric pattern over the Atlantic, okay? No, it's hard to see here, but this is the Atlantic side. So this is the Gulf right here. Here is Florida. Here's the East Coast. Here's the Northeast. And then, of course, here's the Caribbean. And here is the main development region. Oops. Here's the main development region of the Atlantic, okay? So that's what we're looking at. So you get your westerly shear here. The thing about this is this westerly vertical wind shear is going to persist for a while. And you can see through the next 10 days, folks, this is through the middle of July and even through towards the end of July. Can't believe the 23rd is already in view here. Look at this patch of enhanced deep layer vertical wind shear out of the west. That's the red area. That's 50 knots of vertical wind shear from the ensemble from the Euro. And you might think, whoa, but David, there's lesser vertical wind shear out here. That means favorability, right? Yes, you will get tropical waves that try to develop here, but they have a wall. They have an obstacle to go through. And the obstacle is, well, look at all this southwesterly vertical wind shear. Really it's not gonna fare well with these tropical waves coming off of Africa. This vertical wind shear, by the way, is over 25 to 30 knots. So in general, it is really hostile for the Atlantic. Over here too, it is favorable, but that's if our tropical waves can make it through that wall successfully and then develop on the other side. So here in all, just not favorable, just terrible looking. When we look at our vertical wind shear anomalies, same thing. Look at here, above average vertical wind shear across the Caribbean and much of the main development region through the next 15 days. That is a guarantee from our climate models. And when we look at our moisture anomalies as well, you can see too, below average moisture levels across much of the Caribbean and parts of the main development region, correlating well with what we just talked about with that El Nino that is developing. And speaking of that, I wanted to show you all the Pacific side of things, because of course we do have Bobby over here that was triggered by an MJO pulse. Looks like another one is going to try to develop here on its heels and move generally this way. And then we got more potential activity over here in the Central Pacific that we're going to really need to watch for development. And again, that's going to be impacting Taiwan. Here comes our next little system. This one struggles a little bit to get it. Oh, wait, no, this is the 18Z run. Here is the 12Z forecast from the Euro. And that does try to get going eventually nearly over the same areas, or actually just to the west of Guam. It spins up. But man, talk about a busy Pacific here. Yeah, you got one here, you got one here, one here, one here, and maybe another one down here getting ready to develop as well. Even another little vortex. It's really busy Central and East Pacific Basin for a while here. And this is showing true on the 18Z GFS as well. There is a Bobby impacting Taiwan in the next couple of days. Here comes our next little system, bringing enhanced rainfall to Guam and to Saipan yet again. They lost a lot of power. I feel really bad for them. There was a lot of damage being done by Bobby a few days back as it went through that area at a Category 5 with 180 mile an hour winds. Can you believe that? It's just awful. And unfortunately, probably going to continue for a little while longer as this very active MJO state continues. And that's going to trigger not one, but maybe a couple, maybe even 4 systems that develop out of this MJO pulse over the Central Pacific, constructively interfering with our El Nino base state. And then here comes more. Look at this. It's just a line of them getting ready to develop here in the Eastern Pacific. While the Atlantic, you all guessed it, nice and quiet. Nice and quiet. All because of dry air. I mean, look how dry the air is. Just very dry out here. There's just no chance that anything is going to develop, at least for the next 10 days. That's pretty much guaranteed, locked and loaded at this time. All right, I'm up for questions, anybody. Do you guys have any questions on what we just talked about? Yep, there it is. There's our 3 areas, here, here, and here. This actually has a 60% chance. So yeah, definitely busy out there in the Pacific. But how's everybody doing? I wanted to kind of clear up the confusion what El Nino actually is, because it is important, really is. And it's going to really dominate our weather pattern. I really have a feeling I am holding my money to it. I'm predicting 35 inches of rain for my area this coming winter. How strong the southern jet will be, based on, you don't want to hear my answer. You're probably going to freak out when you hear it. Because of the East Asian mountain torque event that really amplifies the subtropical jet in the Pacific. So it really starts over here when we get, let me draw it up. So your Pacific jet really is amplified during the wintertime over here, but can actually get moved up a little bit further to the north from its usual position here, and then nosedive a little bit into Southern California. So I would not be surprised during some of the strongest bouts of this jet extension or East Asian jet extension that we see frequently this El Nino winter, we could have winds in the upper parts of the atmosphere around, say, about 300 millibars, 200 millibars, which is the level of the atmosphere. That's where jet planes fly. We could see winds exceeding about 250 knots, 250, maybe 260 knots. I'm not joking about that. I mean, this El Nino is that strong. It really is going to couple well with the atmosphere, and I would not be surprised if we see brief bouts of that quite frequently this winter with that East Asian jet extension. But yeah, the southern jet this winter is across the southern U.S. is going to be, it's going to be something else. In fact, if we look at the North American multi-model ensemble, it is very wet, very, very wet for the months. Actually, we go to here. This is the overall average. The peak of winter, man, it's really going to be wet for the southeast. Very wet for the west. Indeed, that is. When will jet stream start in the south? When will it start picking up? The jet stream, I would say around the northern hemisphere, the jet stream will start picking up typically around the latter part of July into early August. More gradually, it's a gradual process, but more notably in September is when the jet stream really starts picking up for the winter season. Atlantic will have 0 named storms this season. We already have had one, brother. We already had Arthur, so you can't say 0. So, you mean you're at least one named storm? No, I don't think that's going to happen. We'll have at least a minimum of 5 named storms is what I'm predicting right now. David, how many named storms do you expect in the East Pacific and Central Pacific this season? I don't really forecast the Eastern Pacific with the number of named storms, but if I had to take a wild guess, at least 25 named storms in the Eastern Pacific. Actually, no, I think it's a little too harsh. At least 20 plus named storms in the Eastern Pacific, at least 15 named storms in the Central Pacific. 10 to 15 in the Central Pacific, which is outrageous for the Central Pacific to see in the first place. That's what I'm going with for this year's East and Central Pacific hurricane season. Given how strong El Nino is expected to be along with the Pacific marine heat wave, could Southern California see a tropical storm or maybe a weak hurricane? That is a very good question. And actually, I wanted to this be a really long answered question, actually. Interestingly enough, it really is going to depend on how the subtropical ridge is modulated over the desert Southwest. Right now, the pattern does not favor that at the moment because of where this high actually is. It's going to be mainly over the plains. So you can kind of think most of the flow is going to be out like this. So any tropical system that develops is going to just be moving out this way. And it's not going to be able to recurve and swing hard right into Southern California. That only would happen if the subtropical high is either really weak or it's further south from its usual position. So over here, when you get that flow that is able to return, and that usually won't happen until we get into like late August into September, because that's when the monsoon high out here across the desert Southwest usually begins to break down for the season. And so that's why this system right here, you can see it goes north, but then it just kind of dies away because that subtropical ridge is kind of in the way and it moves over cooler waters. So this year, probably more like in late August, mid to late August, I'd probably hold my bet to it. Maybe a recurve near Southern California coast or Arizona. But I mean, predicting something that to happen this year is very hard. It's very, very hard climatologically to get anything up here in Southern California or Arizona. Hillary was a very rare exception, okay? Hillary just was rare in itself because of the pattern that we were in, okay? Because the reason why we don't get systems in California like that is because this subtropical high, the Four Corners Ridge or the Desert Southwest Saharan Ridge, is the area that the ridge that builds in, and the easterly flow here on the bottom of it. So it's very hard to just get a hurricane or a tropical storm nosedive or beelining towards SoCal. It doesn't happen very easily. And if it does happen, it would weaken down to like a tropical depression or a weak tropical storm. You're very welcome. We need rain badly in Texas. Grass is starting to turn brown. Definitely. It is really unfortunate. Going out of my scope, since we're getting to questions here, yeah, the drought is actually not too bad depending on what part of Texas you're actually in. If you're in northern Texas, yeah, you're dealing with the drought. But if you're down in here, it's either abnormally or moderate drought. So it's not too terribly bad. But depending on your grass, yeah, it does dry out quickly. You probably don't have a sprinkler system. No one needs to evacuate in the Eastern Pacific. Seriously. No one needs to evacuate. Stop. Literally. D-roll 2008. Come on. You're the fear monger. You're the hype squad over there. But yes, also we have a positive, somewhat of a positive Pacific meridional mode, this triangular, like warmer than average water anomaly that we have can also help to enhance the subtropical jet into Southern California. And whatever moisture gets picked up off of Hawaii could have more moisture than usual. I'm in Central Texas. So you're in Central Texas. So you are, let's see where you're at. Yeah, you're not in a drought at all. If anything, you're at abnormally dry. That's D0. That's really not a drought declaration. Probably need to water your grass. That's probably what I think needs to happen. You probably don't have a sprinkler system. Have me come and water your grass for you. I could literally set up your sprinkler system. No, I'm kidding. If I could, I could. I would tell you exactly which days to water, how much to water, based on the weather and stuff. If Typhoon Bobby recurves east faster than forecast, will it be a sign of an El Nino coupling being successful? Not necessarily. Again, it really comes down to steering patterns over the eastern or the western Pacific, because really how typhoons are hurricanes, it's just they're named differently. So the reason why if Bobby recurves faster, it's because this ridge is out of the way faster and it's being captured by this little trough-like system, and it's able to yank the system or tug on the system a little bit. But that's not what is likely to happen. This is likely to take a direct, straight hit into northern Taiwan, into near Shanghai, China. And that is a very intense typhoon on the on the GFS. It still wants us down to 930, 923. It's a very, very strong typhoon. That's incredible. Did you see Ben Null talk about today how the El Nino could generally go past 4 Celsius? Yes. So there is a slight possibility. I don't want to get ahead of myself on this, okay? I want to be conservative with my forecast because, of course, we're almost up to 76,000 subs, folks. You guys got to give me a round of applause on that. Like almost 76,000 subscribers. incredible. Thank you all for supporting me throughout this whole season, even so there's not a whole lot to talk about in the tropics. But I do see this certainly getting tested to go 4 Celsius above average. I certainly see that as a possibility. It doesn't seem very likely, just because the higher you get, the more you have to be like, I don't think that's realistic. It's too high. If we look at the CFS model forecast here, we can see right here, it is predicting a 4. Oh, wait. Is that 4? It is predicting a 4. Man, okay. I have not seen this in a few days. In a few days, this is actually uptrended. Even on the 3-month average mean, I could only imagine what it looks like on the daily or on the monthly forecast. Yeah, okay, yep. This is going 4 degrees plus. So it definitely 3.5. At least, so if I would forecast this El Nino, I'm more kind of on the lower end, just because, I mean, the higher you get, it's kind of like wishy-washy, like, oh, let's hope this gets up to 5 Celsius. Like, I bet you it's going to hit 5. Most of the guidance is more kind of in this window right now, so I'm going to be a little lower, and I'm predicting this to peak at about 3.5 to maybe 3.8 degrees Celsius. Is what I'm going with. But yes, there is a non-zero chance that this could leapfrog past 4 Celsius above average. That would be something else. That would absolutely be terrifying. I know. I've never seen the y-axis extend. I mean, the y-axis only went to, was it 3 Celsius? I think it was only like 3 Celsius. Then they extended it to 4. Now it's extended to 5 Celsius. I mean, yikes. Man, that's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. I've never seen anything like that. I've not. I mean, gosh, one member is predicting a 4.8 Celsius El Nino. Get out of here, member. That's crazy. I think the CFS is overdoing it. So far it's doing pretty good. I'm not going to lie. It's doing quite good with its prediction. And the reason why I see that is what we're seeing in reality versus what's actually coming. And right now, the CFS is like, man, that is a big El Nino, dude. That's off the charts. That's actually 5 Celsius. Now that's actually 5 Celsius right here. 5 degrees Celsius with that El Nino. That's incredible with what the CFS is actually predicting. I think that's a little too high, but it is certainly a possibility. Man, definitely a big atmospheric response, though. I kid you not. Definitely a massive atmospheric response. You cannot get any better than that. Like, literally, that's as clear of an El Nino pattern you can get. Very anomalous troughing along the west coast and the deep south here. You bet there's going to be a lot of storminess across the deep south and the southeast. Your winter is likely to be pretty eventful. Yeah. It is, I can't even begin to fathom that models are this aggressive. Even the relative oceanic Nino index, I want to see where that's at. The relative oceanic Nino index, golly, it's a 3.3 Celsius. Even on that, that's all-time records. That's beyond all-time records. That is wild. Even the high-end forecast is threatening a 3.5. That is ridiculous. The models could be beaten. It could be a little too aggressive, but at this point, I am beginning to put a little more trust. I really am, because of what we have seen so far. But one thing for sure, this is what hurricane season looks like for the deep tropics. Look at all that yellow. Look at all that kind of gold, red color here. And over here too, man. Talk about a inactive hurricane season. It's going to be hard to track this year, I'll tell you. What's up, Ryan? How's it going? What's up? Happy July 8th on the, well, actually July 9th for some of you that are watching this on Eastern time. So David, if I am reading the chart correct, it's showing decent shots for winter weather in the southeast. Yes. Yes. This is showing precipitation anomalies. So does that correlate with snow? Once we get closer, we'll be able to tell you whether or not will there be a lot of snow. But it is definitely going to be a near average winter when it comes to temperatures, to slightly below average. I don't know what it's doing with February though, but this is outrageous here. Absolutely outrageous. Looks more, it doesn't look very La Nina like here, but nice good cold shot of air here across much of the Midwest and deep south. So definitely looking more true winter like, I would say. Not in the snowy side of sense, but it's going to be wetter, more storms, more to look forward to, more below average temperature chances than not. It could be cold air for sure. That might be some snow potential for the deep south, actually, for February with that type of anomaly. That would actually be correlating well with that. See what the jet looks like. Yeah, see, it looks more, it's very zonal though at the same time. But golly, look at the Greenland block. Like, this is from a climate model. This is literally a climate model going ape crazy. Nice, good Greenland block in place here. I mean, dead serious. Very enhanced subtropical jet in the deeps into the Midwest, the western United States, and the deep south. That's very El Nino-like. There is no doubt. There's no doubt at all. That is very El Nino-like. Easily. And look at the pressure pattern as well. You guys got to see this really quick. I mean, look at December. Look at the pressure anomalies. That's just crazy. I mean, come on. Talk about an El Nino coupling pattern. You're looking at it right now in front of your screen. Will the polar vortex come into play this winter? Absolutely. I think the polar vortex, because the QBO is in its westerly phase this coming winter, the QBO topped with a stronger than normal polar vortex. I mean, I cannot say it enough. I really can't say it enough. I would not be surprised if this winter ends up more harsher in the snow and rainy side of things compared to last winter. I don't think temperatures are going to be extremely cold. Not like what we had last winter. There's definitely no indications of that. Maybe at least one Arctic outbreak, but I just don't think we're going to see endless like what we had last winter. Definitely not. With the right conditions, El Niños can promote tornado outbreaks. That's what my friend Ethan B said. If you all were on here when Ethan B was on some of my live streams, he does say that there is a higher chance for tornadic-like activity in the deep south because of that subtropical jet that helps to advect at least some milder air northward. So there's a potential for heightened tornado activity. I'm not going to say tornado outbreak, but there is a heightened risk for more tornadic storms, for more higher tornado activity. Why is the CFS showing cold anomalies for the Northwest in winter? Cold anomalies. Wait, what? Cold anomalies. You're probably referring to something else. That's pressure. Those are pressure anomalies. Those are air pressure anomalies. Temperatures for the Northwest this winter are definitely going to be warm. You're not seeing a really definite winter. Okay, no, this is very El Nino-like. Okay, this is no Canadian Arctic outbreak. Okay, it is cold over here. Man, California, for Pete's sakes, in March, it's going to be cold March for us. Definitely El Nino-like. Man, that's a perfect footprint. That is a good footprint right there. Would love to see tropical storms come north into Arizona and California. Same here. I would not mind witnessing a tropical storm myself. It'd be actually a little exciting. That was fun, though. Seeing Hillary bring moisture towards us. We had rain and we had wind, and our power went out. I remember our electricity literally went out with that tropical storm. It was incredible. I'm like, man, we got power outages. We got some rain falling and got some wind out of the southeast. It literally felt like wintertime, but only temperatures at night were in the upper 70s to lower 80s. It was the weirdest weather I have ever experienced. I'm not kidding. It is exciting, really. So, good question from Joshua. For an El Nino, are we going to see a bomb cyclone this winter for California like we had a couple of years ago, which is February, the most infamous February 4th, February 8th? February 4th. Oh my gosh, I got my dates. It was either of those two dates. I know when it was. It was in early February. So to your question on that, chances are higher. Doesn't mean, or the risk is higher for that, but doesn't mean it's going to happen. And the reason why I see the chances are higher this year is because of the cyclonic exit region. So if you think about a trough sitting out here off of California, we get diffluent flow aloft. We can get these vortexes that can spin up and pinwheel and parallel the California coast and bring us really strong winds. That is a distinct possibility this winter, but it does not mean it's going to happen. I want to be very clear, okay? It's like, again, predicting that I will win $1 million in 50 years from now, okay? We could only look at past patterns and recognize those patterns on what it means for us. California is guaranteed to get above average rainfall this winter. That is a given. With how strong this El Nino is, definitely an above average stormy winter is expected. Whether or not will that correlate well with bombing cyclones, strong damaging wind events, I'm not going to say yes or no to that. It's very hard to say, but the risk level is higher. It is higher on that sense. California will or could possibly get rain this winter. Yes, for sure. Wouldn't you need a strong polar jet for a bomb cyclone? Seems not as likely. Well, strange enough, you'll like this. Okay. For California, it works a little differently because your jet as a whole is stronger than average. So you can think about it this way. So again, down here is where your jet stream is. That's what these height lines actually show. So your jet stream is actually stronger. So it's stronger than average here, okay? And then you get the jet, let me try to correct myself. So you get your jet that does something like this, and it comes down like that. And then you get your subtropical jet that does something like that, okay? So right where that split flow happens is where we get bomb cyclone genesis. That's where you get, because your polar and subtropical jets are kind of merged into one, then they split off. One goes to the north and one goes pretty much straight towards Southern California, which is why Southern California has higher odds of seeing a wetter than normal winter compared to, say, like far Northern California, Oregon, or Washington. But I want to be clear, the risk goes up doesn't mean it's going to happen this year, okay? So for those that live in California, David, are we going to see a bomb cyclone? My answer is I don't know yet. But I do know that if it's going to be a much wetter than normal winter, the risk of that happening at least once throughout the winter is higher in a warming climate like what we're seeing. Have you noticed a little bit of an Atlantic Nino type episode going on right now? Yes, I have noticed that. And that's exactly why I am not too excited about a busy Atlantic hurricane season either, because of that. And actually, I did not even show any of you all that. So let me go over there and look at it. So there is definitely the Atlantic Nino taking place. Okay, sparred with below average sea surface temperatures overall. I mean, you cannot get as hostile as what you see here. You just can't. Yes, your subtropics looks warm. That's what maybe homegrown stuff could develop for sure. But cool, warm, cool, it's not a match. It really doesn't give us a busy season. It really doesn't. That topped with El Nino, I mean, gosh, I mean, just, yeah. And is that 6 Celsius? Oh my gosh. That's not 6 Celsius. Or is it? I think we just reached 6 Celsius. In the traditional index. Oh my gosh, that is insane. That is insane. Whew, man. Gosh, this El Nino has really got its act together. That really has gone up. That straight up. That is wild. Jeez. Yeah, there's even some grays in there. So that's like 3.8 to almost 4 degrees Celsius alone just in this area. It's wild. That's just phenomenal. How long before we get back to a neutral or La Nina? It's hard to say, but I would probably say the middle of next summer, we should head back into a La Nina or a neutral state. But we're not even there. We just started summer. We literally just started summer less than a month ago. So we're not even there. I can't even predict that far. But usually after El Nino, we flip into a neutral or La Nina state. Yeah, 2015-16 really wasn't beneficial for California because of the state of the El Nino, the structure of the El Nino, and just teleconnections kind of won that season out a little bit more. 6 degrees near the Peru coast is quite possible, if not likely. It's already happening. There's a 6 Celsius right here. I am seeing that right. 6 Celsius, that's probably either here or these other little anomalies. That's wild. And this event is just getting started. What's the SOI? The SOI is down for maintenance. That's why I have not been showing it at all. It literally is like, yeah, it says here down for maintenance. So the June, July SOI values have been subject to incorrect data feed. The values will return after the data source has been replaced and values are recalculated. So this has not updated since July the 2nd. So right now it's more neutral, but I would bet you a lot it's very negative because of what we're seeing. Twenty 2026 could indeed be like 2015, if not worse. Oh, yeah. "2015 was the weakest Super El Nino ever." It's felt like that. It really did not. I mean, precipitation patterns really did not verify really well. Hey, David, when will NOAA give their 2026-2027 winter predictions on this coming up winter for the Deep South? Usually they release that like in August or September. I'm going to try to get one out in August sometime. I don't want to drop a bombshell on you guys, but I actually have a new job. And you would probably not even believe where I work. You would not believe. I'll give you a hint. It's a lot better where I used to work. Way better. But that's why I'm also doing this in the morning on YouTube. I'm not going anywhere, folks. I'm not going anywhere. You probably haven't known that I've already been there for 3 months. You guys have not even realized I've worked there for 3 months, and yet I've been doing YouTube. You work for NASA. Nope. Try again. Cloudy Jesse, I think, knows. Don't spit it out, Cloudy Jesse. Don't spit it out. Don't spit it out. I really wanted to not drop the bombshell, but since it might have an interruption on my winter forecast, I felt like maybe it is kind of time to just kind of spit that out. Nope. I work at Costco. I'm not kidding. I want to make sure there's nothing personal on this. Okay. That's where I work. Costco, folks. So I'm working there 5 days a week, and it's a fixed schedule. Like, since I started, I've been working there 5 days a week. I get Wednesdays and Thursdays off. That's been my schedule for a long time. I get Wednesdays and Thursdays off every Wednesday, Thursday. Nope. Wait, didn't you work at Costco before? No, I didn't. I worked at Safeway. And then it didn't work really. It did not work financially out well for me. And it wasn't a good environment. So I was like, I'm going to get my butt into Costco. And I love it. I absolutely love it a lot. I cannot ask for any better of a place to work on the side of my YouTube. Of course, my YouTube is like Costco's primary is the top notch. Then it goes YouTube on a financial side. What hours do I work? I work the weekends. I tend to work 5 to 10. So I'm off earlier than I did at Safeway. And then on the weekdays, I'm off by 11. So it's like 6 to 11, Monday through Friday, because we don't close until 8:30 at night. And we are there to do things, to clean up, whatever we need to do. I can kind of tell you guys, some of you, if you are interested. And then What else? So that's what I do. That's my schedule. Sometimes it's 1:30 to 10 o'clock on the weekends. It just depends on how busy we are. We were busy. We were absolutely busy on Friday. The day before 4th of July. It was just freaking insane. So, any questions? Any other questions about that? I want you all to know I will be doing YouTube every day as long as I feel a lot better. I had some anxiety over the last couple of months, not from Costco. Don't worry, it has nothing to do with Costco. It's just stuff going on out there, personal stuff. So that's what was going on. That caused my anxiety, which then has caused me to not upload as often on YouTube. But that has seemed to gone away completely, and I'm back to doing what I normally like to do. Although I upload in the morning on YouTube, not because of Costco. It's just because it's cooler in my room and everything. Because my room this time of the year gets hot, and it's tiring, and it's dreadful. But yeah, what's up, Cloudy Jesse? How are you doing, sweetheart? How are you doing? How are you going? How are you liking those triple-digit temperatures that are about to swamp the northern plains? It's about to get terrible there. I think you might get up to 110, I think, one of the days. And you're probably like, oh, no way, David. Don't tell me that. Yeah, it's going to get hot. Let's see. Yeah, Fargo, you're near... I think you're down here. 99 degrees. Ooh, look at you, girl. You got temperatures like near 110? Whoo, that is bad. That is hot that far north. Congratulations, David. We appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all. And again, I'm not going anywhere on YouTube. Okay, I actually can manage my YouTube channel a lot better at Costco than I used to at Safeway. Because with Safeway, the schedule was all Willy Wonka. It was just all over the place. There was no prediction on what days to work, what days I would not work. But at Costco, it is very fixed. I can tell you in 4 weeks from now, I will have off Wednesday and Thursday. I mean, it's very set. I love it. It's 5 days a week. It pays great, and it's predictive. I'm not leaving my house. I agree with you. At least the air looks dry, though. Dew points should be in the 40s, so it's not going to be humid. Super humid, but it is going to be hot. How was my 4th of July? It was great. I flew my drone and I was able to view the fireworks. I was able to view the fireworks from the air. So that was great. It was crowded though. I will tell you what, I have never seen so many people ever celebrate 4th of July. Never. Roads were like, there were gridlocks. It was just like, to go literally 8 miles, it took us an hour to get home. It was ridiculous. Traffic was all over the place. And that is because just 250th anniversary of the United States. Happy birthday, America. 250 years is a big deal. Good night, Justin Wilson. Have a great night. Get some of that good deep sleep and REM sleep. How was my family visits? They were good. My mom was out here back in early June. It was nice to see her for a week. We went stargazing. We did a lot. Nice. By the way, I want to ask you all this question since I've been answering your guys' question. How was your 4th of July and how is your sleep, you all? Are you sleeping well? Or if you do sleep not so well, how long does it take you to go to sleep and how many hours of sleep do you get? I've been aiming for at least 8 hours. Last night I got 7 hours and 50 minutes of sleep, which is actually a lot better than it's been because I have not slept really well for a while. I've had back into my hard time falling asleep. So I decided I'm just going to sleep downstairs. Maybe it's too warm, and that has fixed it. And this is my sleep, actually. You all want to view my sleep? This was not last night, but this is the night before. That's my sleep right there. There's my sleep. See the camera? Sleep sucks when I work, but I'm on vacation. It was terrible. The fireworks woke me up. I hated it. I'm not surprised. Fireworks are loud. Fireworks are too loud. But yeah, I'm curious. How did you all sleep? But otherwise, going once, going twice, going thrice, going cuatro, going cinco, going ses. My 4th was awesome. I love fireworks. Sleep-wise, better now that I switched to my couch because my bed is too soft. Oh, wow. Okay, so you're sleeping better. That's good. I went to watch Supergirl at the movies and then went to watch the fireworks. Thunder on the Mountain in Birmingham, Alabama. Oh, nice. Yeah, I've been sleeping a lot better, but there was a period where I could not sleep well at all. I only got 4 hours of sleep one night. I'm like, wow, why am I not sleeping good again? Want to see one of my worst nights? It's crazy. This was one of my worst nights. I had a hard time falling asleep. And once I fell asleep, it was good. Yeah, 113. That's ridiculous, I know. That far north, yuck. That's actually 30 plus degrees above average. How is that? How does that sound? I love David. You do your forecast like a professional. I've been watching you since 2024. Thank you so much. 4 hours neighbors upstairs taking baths at 3 a.m. in the damn morning almost every night lately. Oh my gosh. So you're not sleeping well because of that. A liquid blast furnace has been created by the... Oh. Sleep is pretty good, David. Hey, are you still on Facebook? I'm still on Facebook, but not very active anymore. Honestly, I have not used Facebook. I will go through moments where I'm on Facebook for a couple of months, then I'll go dormant. I'm like a volcano on there. I'll talk for a while, and then I'll just go silent for however long, and then I'll just go back on there. I'm very active on X, though. If you all want to follow me on X, yeah, I'm all over the place. You can't miss me there. Oh my gosh. That's AI stuff replying to some AI stuff that I did earlier. So yeah, if you see me say some filthy language on there, I apologize. But yeah, I'm all over on X, literally. And this guy just posted this. Yep, I agree. El Nino's coupling as expected and will continue to do so in the next few months. That is no surprise. Even someone read my mind. All right. I remember the Melissa streams. Oh yeah, Melissa was insane. I think I reached like 13,000 concurrent viewers. I mean, that was the biggest, most successful stream I could ever endure on my channel. I still have to say thank you all to that, because without that stream, I would have probably not been where I am today on the channel. I mean, we're closing in on almost 80,000 subs. I mean, like right now, let me check. Yeah, I'm close to 75.8 thousand subscribers. All thanks to your guys' diligent support. Even so, there's really nothing to talk about. Which, by the way, if you see me put things like this on thumbnails, like that green area, I don't want to keep it naked. I don't want, like, I've got to have like an area, like a zone. And that's why it's green. Green means good. It doesn't mean there's not going to be any development. It just means, just in general, watching tropical waves, just nothing to really worry about. Because I don't want to just put any chance and then not put anything. That would just be terrible. It's like, wait, any chance of what? There's nothing on the thumbnail. Why should I click and watch it, right? All right. So yeah, I heard about that 190. That's crazy. That's very strong intensity. All right, I think the questions have faded away. I think I'm going to be headed out. Well, anyways, folks, it was nice for you all to tune in to this live stream. I'm probably going to take the day off tomorrow. I'll see how I feel. I'm a little tired tonight. I'll see what I come up with. It depends on how I feel like at 2 in the morning. I may or may not have a video out at 6 in the morning or 5:30 to 6 in the morning Pacific time. If I do, I do. If I don't, I'll see you all back here Friday morning. As always, make Wednesday night, Thursday morning a great night for you all here from the Home Weather Office. Take care, be safe, and be weather aware. I'll be back with you more soon with more weather content. Peace out, folks. Share, like, and subscribe as always. Get me up to 100,000. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome. Peace out.